All right, everybody, here we go. We're time traveling. We're going all the way back to 2001. We're talking The Fast, The Furious, the birth of maybe what I consider it's not even maybe. It's like the most original film franchise, the best original film franchise in cinema history. I'm sorry, Star Wars fans. The storyline's better. It's more connective, but we're not really going to go into those points. But hey, thank you for joining me. I'm Peter A. DeLuca, another known as Pad. That's where we get the AKAPAD from AKAPAD's Audio Audacity. And again, thank you so much for joining me. But look, you already hear that intro going, so let's get through that and jump into this movie. All right, here we go. So here's the thing. So a lot of times I like to go into like some type of anecdote. I tell you what's happening in Philly. If you need to know right now in Philly, it is summer is ending, fall is beginning, and we have that beautiful, crisp, chilly air coming in. Especially during the mornings, and it just feels so good. It kind of messes with you because it still gets hot during the day. The sun beams on you, and you don't know what to wear sometimes. But if you like the cold, if you like the autumn chill, this is like the beginning of your season. I can't wait. And so the previous episode, we were talking about Hobbs and Shaw, and that's already a movie. There's already points in that I didn't get to. There's things I wanted to discuss in that movie that I didn't arrive at because it's just like it's somewhat of an epic, and that's what this franchise has become. This franchise has become action epic after action epic. The best thing for me to compare it to, and a lot of you are going to hate it, but it's the Michael Bay Transformer 5 movie set, from Transformers to Transformers Age of Extinction, which is the last one, number 5. And like it's like, Pete, what are you talking about? How can you apply the term epic to this? Well, number one, I'm saying action epic. Epic is, to me, a reserved term. Okay, a lot of people call Titanic an epic, and I don't associate Titanic with epic. What I associate with the filmmaking term, or the film product term, epic, it's giant and it's sprawling. Giant, with the great James Dean, is an epic. Ben-Hur is an epic. Lawrence of Arabia is an epic. Braveheart is an epic, and it's like, Pete, like, okay, like, what do you mean? They're all long movies. Long movies are epics. That's not the point. The point is that it is sprawling, meaning it is hitting different times. It's hitting different environments. The movie itself changes tone. From my world, the superhero genre. There's maybe only, I would say maybe two. There's two superhero epics that just coming to my mind, and this establishes like the baseline of where I'm coming from. One would be Richard Donner's Superman movie, easily an epic, and then we have Avengers Endgame, easily an epic. Avengers Infinity War, not Avengers Endgame. Avengers Endgame's just a pure mess. Avengers Infinity War, because that movie, there's so many different locations. It shifts. It is sprawling in its green screen glory, and it may be the most complete green screen movie ever made. But anyway, that's a different point. So, when I get to the points of like Hobbs and Shaw, there are so many different environments in that movie. The movie shifts. When they get to Somalia, where we have our final showdown, it literally feels like a different movie in tone alone, in the stakes alone, in the hues and what we're looking at, like optically, what we're looking at. It's changed. The movie has changed. The movie has shifted. Every single Fast and Furious movie from 5 on, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 9 coming up. 5, 6, 7, and 8 are action epics. We are dealing with countries, we're dealing with floods of new characters, we're dealing with complex emotional threads established in this movie here. See, the reason why this is better than Star Wars as a arc, it's that everything we have set up in this movie, number one, it pays off in other movies. Number two, it's still there in other movies. And number three, we can watch this movie and we understand the mindset and the emotional state of a lot of these characters, almost like they're tropes. Like it's we can have solidified tropes that we will see later on in other movies. And you're like, Pete, this is Fast and Furious. Will you this is a dumb car movie. What is happening with you? So, when we talk about The Fast and The Furious, 2001, there's a few things I like to always remind people of. Number one, this movie solidified rock solid car culture. Car culture was, this type of car culture was mostly underground. And MTV picked up this movie and just took it. They endless reality shows, reality competition shows, Pimp My Ride. It all came from Fast and Furious. Now, I didn't verify time frames for any of that. I could be wrong. I'm just, a lot of this I'm spitballing from memory. And that's also where it's important. See, it's important because this movie, just on premise alone, is educating you on something that you're not familiar with. Now, could you do this every single movie? No. And they realized that even going into the sequel, that's the next episode, 217. It's going to be Too Fast, Too Furious, and 218 is going to be Tokyo Drift, Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift. So that's your next block there. If you don't like Fast and Furious, just hang tight. We'll have something for you very soon. Too Fast, Too Furious is essentially the first of these movies being somewhat crime, somewhat heist, somewhat Point Break. And you can make the not so. I mean, I take that back. The Fast and Furious is your Point Break analog. Too Fast, Too Furious is, I think they perfected this concept with the fifth one. Too Fast and Too Furious, there's a lot to go over there. A lot of good, a lot of bad. This movie is just all good. There's really nothing wrong with this movie. This movie is genre filmmaking at its finest. This is one of the best car movies ever made. There's very few ways to come at this movie. Now, modern day critics can attack this movie for, what it represents in today's standards. I'm not going to get into that. But I feel like modern day critics can tear anything apart for any reason, without context and without showing or discussing filmmaker intent. But anyway, so this movie, essentially, as I said, is it's a copy. It's a template of Point Break. Now, one of the names we don't hear a lot when it comes to the Fast and the Furious is Gary Scott Thompson. This is the guy that wrote the freaking movie. Now, I would love to say that Gary Scott Thompson, GST as we call him in my circles, has done other things, and he really hasn't. I would love to say that he created this and he was a part of that. Now, he's a career creator within Hollywood, but that doesn't necessarily mean, from my standpoint, it's like you kind of want these guys to, be like substantive to the point that they can continuously create things you heard of. But look, when it comes to screenwriters, this is a screenwriting game in Hollywood. You can work a long time and get one movie made, and that's it. And then after that, you're lucky to get like a TV show, like a TV show episode. And look, for a lot of directors, it's the same situation. But he's credited as the creator of the Fast and the Furious. and we should know that name, just as a film loving community. The second name to know in this movie is Rob Cohen. And you're like, P, who's Rob Cohen? Well, that's your director. And I'm a big director guy. I like directors. I think directors deal with mostly they deal with situations that cannot be contained. Meaning, they're part babysitters, they're part wranglers, they're part generals. They are they deal with so much between the studio and the talent, and practically like the practical part of filmmaking to like what's happening on set. It's a shock to how anything can come out of a film production. Directors are filmmakers; they make it happen. Now, his career, okay, I would say post 2008, somewhat is slow. Since 2008, he's only directed 3 movies. Now, one of them I need to see right away, and that's the 2018, the Hurricane Heist. I need to see that movie right away. Now, he was on my radar back in the early 90s because, and he puts his own movie in his own movie, but in 1993, he directs Dragon, the Bruce Lee story. And that's a solid flick. It's a fantasy of the Bruce Lee life, but I'll argue so is Amadeus. Wolfgang Mozart, Amadeus. And he takes off 3 years, 3 years prep time, and he has a really big 1996. Two great movies. Dragonheart with Dennis Quaid, with a robot, part CGI dragon, voiced by Sean Connery, and then we have the way underappreciated Daylight, starring Sylvester Stallone. Now, this is during Stallone's fading years as Schwarzenegger too, fading with Last Action Hero. Both of these movies, can somewhat be subject to the Jurassic Park effect, where everything went towards CGI fantasy, and we started to see less and less. But there were still Hollywood still had a couple big tentpole action-driven movies, ready to go. But again, we'll discuss that. 1998, we have The Rat Pack. I didn't see that one. I'm sorry. I'm not even. 2000, we have The Skulls, starring Joshua Hartnett from Dawson's Creek, right? Is it? And also, this is the introduction of him and Paul Walker. And then in 2001, we have The Fast and the Furious, and he brings Paul Walker back. Okay, so he's familiar with Paul Walker at this point. Probably he's the reason Paul Walker is in The Fast and the Furious. In 2002, we have Triple X. 2005, we have Stealth with Jamie Foxx, Jessica Biel, and Luke. Is it Luke Wilson? I forget the guy in the villain from Too Fast, Too Furious. I forget that guy's name. I'm bad. Stealth. It took me a little bit to get through that movie, but it wasn't because it was unwatchable. It just took me. I just remember like it was late one night, and I actually watched that entire movie. And it's Jaws as a sentient AI killer jet. Not bad, okay. Stealth is a decent movie, and then we have a really good fit here. We have The Mummy, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. That's the Ang Lee, not the Ang Lee. Look, we know the Mummy franchise with Brendan Fraser. Mummy the Dragon Emperor is co-starring Jet Li. I'm sorry, and it's a full cast revival. Not revival, but continuation. Yeah, would I say that this movie's underrated? I certainly would. Last year for the 31 Days of Dread, we went into Steven Sommers, the director of The Mummy and Mummy 2, Mummy Returns. And we spoke about this movie. This movie has a fantastic Yeti sequence that I love and I adore. I just think it's cool AF. And like it doesn't bring back the franchise, and I kind of really was hoping it would like bring it back to like another one or two more movies, because the flavor of the Mummy, I would say, is like almost like what they're going for now in the Pirate of the Caribbean movies, which just seems to have an endless list of greenlit sequels. And I mean, because the Pirate of the Caribbean movies, they have the first three: Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest, and Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End, right? And the first one just Pirates of the Caribbean? I don't think so. I think that one has a subtitle too. But okay. But the first three movies, it's like Gore Verbinski. It's his like sepia tones. Like he dreaded the movie. Just looks dreadful. It's a beautiful looking movie. Incredible music. Some of the best special effects. But the movies have like some of a dreadful tone, buddied with Jack Sparrow just fumbling around. I believe they would like those movies to eventually become the tone of what The Mummy was. With these movies, a tone that Rob Cohen perfectly recreated in 2008 for The Mummy, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. And what I mean by that, it's like shorter movies, quicker, longer action. And by quicker action, I mean we're quicker to get to the action, and to be a little bit more less serious and more fumbling. It's somewhat of the Indiana Jones formula. So why are we talking about Rob Cohen? Because what Rob Cohen has done, he's contributed to your culture. He's contributed to your film-going experience. Now, if we go back to 1996 and we talk about Dragonheart, I believe, has gotten 2 straight-to-video sequels. That's that's hard enough to do on its own. And then let's go to 2000. The Skulls has had, I believe, 2 straight-to-video sequels. Or extensions. Like some of these are divergent. Like I know the American Psycho sequel is like the daughter or like sister or like like something like that. But it's still the same universe, the same. They're attempting the same things. They're trying to harness something that was impactful. See, that's the point I'm getting at. And then we talk about the Fast and the Furious. Here we go. We're already 9 movies in, with 1 spinoff. All right, and part 9 is coming out soon. Then we have 2002. We also have Triple X. Now, Triple X has had 3 movies total. Triple X 2, State of the Union, and Triple X 3, Return of Xander Cage. The point I'm getting at is Rob Cohen's been in the game for a while. He's been producing movies since 1975. It's 2018 now. That's a long time. Okay, that's like 40 something years. This guy, he was in a zone. It's like he understood kind of what these things were, and the Skulls capitalized on the Bush administration and the Skull and Bones and the Ivy League school, final clubs, as we hear in the beginning soliloquy, not really, but the beginning conversation in David Fincher's Social Network. And he had the awareness to realize that Hollywood has never had a true dragon on screen. That's why Dragonheart resonated. People love occult societies. One hits the mainstream, one hits the lexicon. We have the Skulls. People have never really heard or seen true car culture. Fast and Furious. People want a different James Bond. And I would say this all the time. Triple X led to Casino Royale with Daniel Craig. People, it was it was a intended knock on that franchise. Okay, and knock, I mean, we're knocking on your door, we're coming for you. If Triple X was, I feel like more of a complete movie. I always felt like the movie needed to be longer too. It would have helped dismantle James Bond, because James Bond was in the low at that point. But Daniel Craig, they did probably one of the best course corrections in Hollywood history with the Pierce Brosnan to Daniel Craig James Bond shift. And I think Curtis Hanson is attributed to that, and bravo to him. So this movie, has a legit guy behind it. Now, Vin Diesel's ushered the franchise since then, and he's done amazing things. But the great thing when it comes to even Fast and Furious, when it comes with adjusted ticket price for inflation, this movie is still the fourth highest grossing one, just domestically. In comparison, Fast and Furious Presents Hobbs and Shaw is number 8. Number 9 is Tokyo Drift. Tokyo Drift's the only one that hasn't broken 100 million. It's surprising, but I don't think Tokyo Drift that costs a lot of money. Like that's got to be like a $30 million movie, And I hate how some of these sites never have that info, even though they have categories for it. So when we actually talk about the movie, I say Point Break, but it's Point Break, nah. I mean, one of the best parts of this movie is Point Break has it has this divergent, like Point Break is easily 3 movies or like 3 clear acts. It's like Johnny Utah introduction, okay, Patrick Swayze, Johnny Utah, okay, or Keanu Reeves, Patrick Swayze, and then we have Keanu Reeves on the case going undercover, and then we have him escaping, turning, becoming one of the boys in the final sequence, which is just nothing but tension, and that's really what makes Point Break. That third act really sticks with you. This movie just says, look, this dude's on the cover, we're done with it. So again, the comparisons to Point Break are fair, but they're not. It's like, look, Hobbs and Shaw, a lot like Mission Impossible 2, just an idea alone, but the movies themselves are so different. It's like, why even bother with that comparison? I say Point Break because a lot of you out there, I know, look at Fast and Furious as a Point Break-ish movie. Now, we get into this, mystery of who's really behind these robberies that we see in the beginning of the movie. And we have 3 gangs. We have Vin Diesel's gang, we have a Latino gang, okay, and then we have the Yakuza. Okay. Sure. And it's kind of like a chess match of who's who, what's what. There's a wonderful raid sequence that is really one of my favorite raid sequences that has consequences within the movie. And that I always feel like deserves more attention, but it's a true filmmaker's raid sequence set to music. It's being cut between the raid sequence and Vin Diesel making love to Michelle Rodriguez. It's just well done. So a lot of times it's I always argue, what's the point of a movie? Earlier today I watched Moneyball. The point at the end of that movie, the point of Moneyball, as much as I love everything about Moneyball, but the ending, I'm not sure what the point is. It didn't really tee off any ideas at the end there. It just kind of is ugh. Which is fine because the movie's just thrilling and has enough information. And it's more of a play. It's more of a dialogue-driven movie than anything. Fast and Furious, by the end of this movie, the point is family, okay? The point's family. We still have that concept today. Hobbs and Shaw, family, okay? This is the Fast and Furious franchise. It's just a metaphor for family. But we do have we deal with consequences in the next movie, Too Fast, Too Furious. But we do have Paul Walker having his Johnny Utah letting Patrick Swayze go moment. So it is very close to Point Break, people, at the end of this movie. That's fine, because that's a great ending. It's a great thing. I love the undercover dude getting wrapped up in the people he's investigating that are in fact doing the crimes. And the full introduction we have into race culture in this movie are really good race sequences. Race sequences with stakes, because people are betting cars, they're betting money, they're betting pink slips. We have later, I think Fast and Furious 6 or 7. No, 7. Vin Diesel mentions creating race wars. And, we are in race wars in this movie. They go back to race wars in 7. Okay, I believe it's not referenced at all in the other movies that Vin Diesel and Michelle Rodriguez created race wars, but it's in this movie. And this is some of the connected threads I talk about. Now, this movie too also has loss. It has death. This movie has somewhat like younger people being younger, having this outlook. The Vin Diesel's I only go a quarter mile at a time, which is, that's something I wish was a little bit still in the movies. But, that's a little bit of a life philosophy. That is an attitude. That is a worldview. And it's a powerful one. It's a great one. So, where are we with this movie? Why isn't it held to a higher standard? Because excuse me, they're breaking up there a little bit. You know what? Let me just drink some. By the way, guys, I'm drinking instant coffee. Okay. So, excuse me. So, why isn't this movie held in a higher regard? Because it's a genre. You instantly dismiss it. And it's a drilled down one. It's cars. There's not many street car movies or street, I would say like street culture movies out there. It's also an action movie. It's also this drama. It's also a little bit of a, romance. This movie has all the elements. That's why it carried on. That's why it got a sequel. So much so that, was this a template for Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift? Very likely. I always kind of compare Tokyo Drift to this movie by suggesting that it is it's almost like a Paul Walker origin story, but not really. A Brian origin story, but no, and this is some of the stuff that kind of, I don't want to say it upsets me, because I sleep fine at night. It's just one of those ideas that people escape because they want to downplay these movies. They want to act like there is not cohesiveness, that there's not continuity. The continuity in this movie is deeper and richer than even Star Wars, because we have so many of these micro emotional payoffs as we watch these movies. Is the action later ridiculous or cartoony? Whatever, I don't know. Yeah, sure. I think it's fantastic. That's why I love watching and rewatching these movies. So, is it important to watch this movie before you watch 9? No. I believe 9 is going to be a sequel to 8. And 8's distant from 7. That's just the way how these movies are somewhat structured. They're almost structured in 2 movie sets, a lot like Mission Impossible. Mission Impossible is very much like this, and Mission Impossible is right there with what Transformers has done continuity wise and what this movie has done continuity wise. That's your 3-headed dragon. That's your King Ghidorah. Quick side note, if you haven't seen Godzilla King of Monsters, because I can't stop watching that movie, go out there and watch Godzilla King of Monsters. That movie's legit. Love it. But look, everyone, do me a favor. This movie's available on Stars. So's Too Fast, Too Furious, and so's Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift. The first 3 movies. This one and the third one have a end credit scene. Now, the end credit scene for this movie is fantastic. It's Vin Diesel in South America or in the desert, getting away, living life a quarter mile at a time. Like the adventure continues. So again, perfect use of an end credit sequence there, and and a sign of things to come, because I believe credit sequences should be in nearly every single movie. I do. But look, everyone, thanks for joining me. Rock and roll. I love you. And until next time, until episode 217 of AKAPAD's Audio Audacity podcast, we're going to be discussing Too Fast, Too Furious. And that's another one I somewhat enjoyed. Not really. Okay. Well, you'll have to wait. Coming very soon, coming this week. We'll discuss that. But hey, in the meantime, I love you. Rock and roll, and let's get to it.